Easter is right around the corner and I wanted to make something fun and festive for the holiday. So I will be making a jelly bean explosion cake. Now you're probably wondering, what's a jelly bean explosion cake? It's basically a cake you can make for any occasion. You cut into the cake and an explosion of whatever you put inside comes out. And today we're gonna have jelly beans. Now this won't be just a simple cake that I put jelly beans inside. I will be making the cake out of 3 of my favorite jelly bean flavors. 1 being lemon, 2 being strawberry, and 3 being orange. I love to pop these 3 flavored jelly beans in my mouth and feel that explosion of flavors that it creates. And we're gonna mimic that in the cake right here next on the sweet spot. I'm going to make this cake very simple. So we're not gonna make 3 different cake batters with the different flavors. We're gonna make 1 base vanilla cake batter, and then we're gonna add the lemon, strawberry, and orange flavoring to each layer. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. To start our base batter, we're gonna first mix our dry ingredients. So I have my flour here. I will add my baking powder, my baking soda, and my salt. And with a spatula, I'm just gonna mix all of that together to make sure all my dry ingredients are combined and evenly distributed. Now that we've pre-mixed our dry ingredients, we're gonna set that aside for a little bit later and move on to making our batter. So the first thing you're gonna do is add your butter along with your sugar to your mixer. You're gonna mix on medium for about 2 to 3 minutes. You wanna make sure those ingredients are nice and combined together. So let's add our butter. And our sugar. And just mix on medium. All right, as you can see, our sugar and butter creamed together. Scrape down the sides of your bowl if needed. Now what we're gonna do is add in our eggs. I'm gonna first add in my 3 whole eggs. And then mix on medium until those are combined. And scrape down your bowl if needed in between that addition. All right, and now we're gonna add the egg whites. And then we're gonna mix that on medium until that's combined. All right, we're gonna give this a scrape. Okay, now we're gonna add our canola oil and vanilla. And then we're gonna mix this on medium until this is combined. All right, I'm gonna scrape down the sides of my bowl once again. And it's okay if you see the butter separate a little bit in the batter. That's perfectly normal. All right, now let's begin adding in our flour. I'm gonna add in a little bit of my flour at a time. I'm gonna probably do 2 rotations, so I'll add 50% of my flour. Then I'm gonna rotate in my buttermilk. So 50% of my buttermilk, the remaining flour, the remaining buttermilk. So let's get started. Just adding in half of my flour. All right, and we're gonna mix this on medium until it's nice and combined. All right, and then once again, scrape down the sides of your bowl. Just a note, you're gonna scrape down the sides of your bowl in between each addition because the batter will start to thicken. And you want to make sure all of the ingredients on the bottom are mixing in. So just a light scrape. And now we're going to add half of our buttermilk. And then mix again on medium. Okay, we're going to scrape this down and then add in our remaining flour. All right, nice good scrape. now our flour. Scrape down the sides of our bowl. And as you can see, our batter is much thicker. And we're gonna add the remaining buttermilk. And mix again on medium. All right, our base batter is done. We'll scrape down the sides of the bowl. And then we're gonna portion it out. My base batter is done. I've scraped down the sides. My batter is nice and smooth. It's now time to start adding the individual flavoring for each layer. So I have 3 small bowls here. And it doesn't have to be exactly precise. If you want to make it precise, you can use a scale and measure out how much is in each bowl. I use my little ladle here. How many scoops I put the same amount of scoops in each bowl basically. So just starting with my first bowl, I'm gonna do a scoop. And then I scoop in each one until I'm done, and I roughly have about the same amount. To me, this is easy than measuring. If you want to measure out to make them really, really precise, it's okay, but it won't really matter to the end result of your cake. My batter's portioned out, and the first layer I'm going to start with is my lemon layer. So you're going to take your lemon zest, get all of that in there. You may need to use your finger. The zest likes to stick to whatever bowl you have it in. And my lemon juice. And with the whisk, I'm just gonna whisk that together until it's nice and combined and smooth. And just make sure all the ingredients are combined. It may take a little muscle. Now we're gonna make our orange layer. So you're gonna take your orange zest, like the lemon zest. You may need to use your fingers. It likes to stick to the bowl. Orange juice. Now this is optional. I like to use Grand Marnier because I feel that it really brings out the citrus of the orange. So just whisk that until it's combined. Strawberry is going to be my last layer. So I'm taking strawberry extract. We're just gonna whisk that until it's combined. I like to use gel food coloring. I find I can control the color a lot more. So as you can see, I've laid out my batters, coordinating with their color. I like to add it using a toothpick. So as you can see, I'm gonna load up my toothpick with a little bit of my gel color and just stroke it through the batter. Let's give it a mix here to see. You can see it's already giving it a little bit of yellow color, but it's Easter, it's pastels, so they do have some color, but they're not totally like sunshine yellow. It's gonna be like a nice pale yellow. And gel colors can be really strong, so that's why I use a toothpick to add them in and then whisk. Add a little more. It's okay, toothpicks are cheap. You can use as many as you like. And just swirl it through there. And you're gonna see once I start mixing, you're gonna see how much color it actually gives. Like, look how much color came up with those toothpicks. You can kind of see. As I mix, you start to see that bright yellow. All right, same step as we did for lemon, just taking toothpicks. I'm gonna load up 2 toothpicks here. And I'm just gonna swirl that through the batter. Along the side, I just scrape off any extra. Then we're gonna mix. Some colors mix faster than others. So as you can see, the orange, it gets orange really fast. Whereas the lemon, I had to work it a little bit more. Just I'm gonna add a little bit more coloring because it's still a very pale orange. We don't want it like orange, but we do want you to see the distinct difference between this layer and the lemon layer. All right, whisk again. All right, I think we're just about there with our orange. It's giving me a nice pale orange color. Maybe just one more for a little bit more contrast in the lemon. Then I'm gonna put them side by side to see how much contrast I actually have. So let's do this last whisk. All right. There we go. You can see there's contrast between the two layers. Still very pale, but I can see the difference between the two. So the last layer is strawberry. So we're gonna go pink instead of like a real strawberry red because I don't want a bright red layer in the midst of all those pastels. So just gonna take a little bit. I'm starting lighter with this one because the extract gave the batter a little color. And then once you go really pink, you can't go back. And you can see just with that little addition of pink, how pink it's gotten already. I'm gonna mix this and then look at it next to the yellow to see if I have contrast. I need a little more pink. I'm getting contrast, but it's still a little light, but I don't want it too dark. So I'm gonna swirl that in. And then whisk. I think this is good. But you can see how the yellow took longer, orange, little less, and our pink, a couple of swipes, and we were there. So I have my 3 batters here. We've flavored them, we've put in the food coloring. It's now time to fill our cake pans. So taking a spatula, I'm just gonna pour all of the batter into a cake pan. So my cake pans are filled and you can see the distinct colors. You can see my lemon, my orange, and my strawberry. So now it's time to put these cakes in the oven. So we're gonna bake them in a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes or until an inserted toothpick comes out clean. So you do wanna watch them. About 20 minutes, I'm gonna start checking my cakes. So we're gonna put them in the oven, let them bake so we can get to the fun part. The cakes are out of the oven, they're cooling down. It's now time to make our vanilla frosting. So we're gonna start our frosting with our butter. So you're gonna add your butter first to a mixing bowl. Add all of that butter. And remember, it's important for your butter to be at room temperature because you really want it to smooth out and cream very easily. So we're gonna take our butter in our mixing bowl. We're gonna blend that on medium until it's nice and smooth. You want all that butter smooth out. My butter is nice and smooth, so I'm just going to scrape down the sides of my bowl and remove any additional butter from my blade here. And then I'm gonna start adding some of the confectioner sugar. This can get really messy because confectioner sugar loves to go all over the kitchen. So I add in a little at a time. And what I do is I start my mixer on low. I don't go for really, really high. So we're just gonna go around the blade here and put some confectioner sugar into my bowl. You can already see I get that little cloud of confectioner sugar. So we're gonna start on low and then work to speed up. I'm gonna add in a little more icing or confectioner sugar. We're making icing. And if your frosting starts to get too thick, too quick, you can start adding some of the liquid, which I may do next. But let's see how this goes. And remember, start on low and then work your way up. All right, it's getting nice and creamy. We're gonna scrape the sides and the bottom of our bowl, because there's always this little bit of stubborn confectioner sugar that loves to sit at the bottom of my bowl and not blend in. So we're gonna force that in. And once again, just forcing some of the frosting from in between the paddle. All right. I don't need to really add liquid. It's still creamy enough for me to add more confectioner sugar. So we're gonna add a little bit more. Remember, this is 5.5 cups, so it's a lot of confectioner sugar. So it takes a little bit of mixing to get it all mixed in. Because once again, if I put the 5.5 cups in there, I would have confectioner sugar all over the kitchen. As you can see, I'm still getting a little spillage, but not too much. So start on low, work your way up. Time to add the last bit of our confectioner sugar. So I have scraped down my bowl once again, and we're gonna add the little remaining confectioner sugar we had into the bowl. And just kind of try to force it in. All right, there we go. And once again, start on low and work your way up. So I've turned down my mixer to low because I like to add my cream in while the mixer's going. So I'm gonna put it back on low and add in a little bit of the cream. And now I'm gonna turn it up. So we have some of the cream in there, and I can tell it's starting to get nice and loose in the consistency, but I wanna scrape down the bowl and also the bottom, because I find that you do get a little bit of that stubborn icing that likes to stick to the bottom. So once again, just scraping the bowl. And now I'm going to add the remaining cream into my frosting. And we're now gonna add in our vanilla extract and a pinch of salt. And we're gonna blend it on medium till everything's so smooth and nice and creamy. It's time for the fun part, building the cake. My frosting is done, have it set to the side. I have my bowl of jelly beans, and I have my first layer, which is my strawberry layer. You can level out the cake if you like. I prefer to level mine out, so I just took a serrated knife and just leveled the top layer. Also, it gives me a chance to taste how good the cake came out. So I have a 3-inch biscuit cutter here. You can use a knife and cut a circle. I know myself, and it would bother me if my circle is not perfect. So I prefer to use a biscuit cutter or cookie cutter, 3 inches. So I'm gonna place it in my cake and kind of eyeball it to make sure I have the center. Then once you get to your center, you're just gonna press down and cut that cake out. And just take your finger and you have your perfect circle. Now this is the hole for your jelly beans. So once we start icing the cake, we're gonna fill that hole with jelly beans, and that's gonna create our surprise. So let me put this aside and we're gonna start frosting the cake. So now that we have our hole cut out, I'm just gonna take a little bit of the icing and take my frosting knife and just start smoothing around that circle as even as possible. And I do it gradually because I don't want a ton of icing in the middle of my circle. So my jelly beans go to pour out, they're all stuck to the sides because I have so much icing. So I'm careful about not putting too much icing that it all falls into the center of the cake. So it's time for my next layer of cake, and you're probably wondering, how do you know where the hole is if it's not completely centered? Well, I'm gonna take this skewer and stick through my cake. Aha! And it went all the way down, so I could tell one of my sides is here. And let's see what it is. There, so it's in between those. Well, let's do this side. Yeah. So we're gonna do it right there. Haha. And we went all the way through. Second piece of cake. Right, time to ice this one. My second layer is iced over top. It's now time to put in our jelly beans. You're only gonna put jelly beans in between the two bottom layers because you need support at the top. So let's go ahead and fill our center with jelly beans. And be careful not to hit the icing like I just did. And I'm gonna remove those because I don't want them to stick, because when you cut into the cake, you want them to free flow out. So make sure you don't get any icing on your jelly beans. I'm gonna try to get it as balanced as possible over the top, because I want them to spill out and go everywhere. I think one more will do. Our jelly beans are all locked in. We have our final layer, the lemon layer on top. Now it's time just to ice the rest of the cake and finish it up. So my cake is all iced, jelly beans in the center. Now I want to add some sprinkles to the outside just to give a little bit of flair. This can get a little messy, I will warn you, because sprinkles do not like to go on anything vertically. They like to just fall all over. So with my fingers, I'm just going to kind of press them in, and as you can see, they're going everywhere. They do not like to go to the sides of the cake. So just taking them a little by little and pressing along the side. This can take a little time, but it's worth the look and look. So I'm just gonna add some sprinkles to the side of the cake. I'm not gonna go all the way up. I'm just gonna create a little border around the side. Just add that finishing touch, and here we go. As you can see, I added sprinkles, jelly beans, just a border around the cake. It's time to cut into this bad boy and see all those jelly beans explode everywhere. So let me grab a knife and let's get started. All right, here we go. First cut. Oh, I can hear the jelly beans. Second cut. Let's remove the slice. There we go. Jelly bean explosion. Look at all those jelly beans in there pulling out. Here's your slice of cake. So good. I want to thank all of you for joining me once again and letting me share this fun cake with all of you. It's a great cake to make, great flavors. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe. I have more fun recipes coming your way right here on The Sweet Spot.